Picture this: desolate, trampled earth, ash, just silently falling from a darkened sky. Complete, unbroken silence. This is the aftermath of what I consider an absolute narrative masterpiece. Today, we're diving into a story that did something incredibly rare. It methodically conditioned us, its audience, over years to actually cheer for our own psychological manipulation. It's a story that takes the ultimate victim of circumstance and, almost painstakingly, transforms him into the ultimate perpetrator of global genocide.
Welcome to ReWritten. In this explainer, we're going to undertake a deep, historical reflection on the overarching tragedy of Eren Jaeger, the monster we created. Now make no mistake, this isn't just some simple tale of survival. What we're looking at is a profound, unyielding examination of human nature, of inherited trauma, and, frankly, the inescapable cycles of violence that dictate the rise and fall of our civilizations. Section 1. The Boy in the Cage. You know, to truly understand the monster, we first have to understand the suffocating reality that forged him.
Eren Jaeger wasn't born a monster. He was forced into a physical and psychological cage built by centuries of cyclic oppression. Let's look at the history for a second. Millennia ago, a slave named Ymir Fritz came into contact with the source of all living matter, gaining the literally godlike power of the Titans. For generations, the Eldian Empire wielded this grotesque power to ruthlessly subjugate the globe, including the rival nation of Marley. Centuries later, an ashamed Eldian king, Karl Fritz, retreats to Paradis Island. He builds massive walls of hardened colossal flesh to trap his own people in ignorance as a sort of penance. In retaliation, Marley, having overthrown their oppressors, trains young, deeply indoctrinated warriors to infiltrate those very walls and retake the founding Titan. This bloody, centuries-long cycle built the exact cage Eren was born into. A world where humanity basically lived like cattle, just waiting to be slaughtered by giants. So when he watched his mother brutally die right in front of his eyes, it wasn't just a catalyst, it was a massive psychic fracture that ended up defining his entire existence.
But here's the thing. Eren's blinding rage wasn't entirely his own creation. As the story tells us, he was the one who started this story. It's a heavy burden passed down by his father, Grisha Jaeger. See, Grisha was himself a victim of Marley's systemic cruelty. He was quite literally forced to watch as his sister was murdered by state guards. Consumed by vengeance, he passes his mission, his Titan powers, and this immense, inherited trauma directly onto his son. It's the classic sins of the father. That trauma, combined with the horrifying loss of Eren's mother, forcefully shifted a terrifying burden of ancestral rage onto the shoulders of the next generation.
Section 2. The Illusion of Freedom. For a long time, we, the audience, and the characters, shared a singular, golden purpose.
We were completely invested in the visceral, hopeful struggle of these soldiers. We watched Commander Erwin brilliantly bait the female Titan within the walls, a gambit of pure tactical desperation that left us on the edge of our seats. We mourned the tragic fall of the Levi squad, where these ultimate sacrifices were made simply to keep hope alive. And of course, we cheered during the glorious, bloody reclamation of Wall Maria with the long-awaited defeat of the colossal Titan. We believed it. With every fiber of our being, just as they did. We truly believed they were sacrificing everything to fight literal monsters, to reclaim the Earth, and to save the very last remnants of humanity from total extinction. And then, they reached the basement. The truth hidden behind that door absolutely shattered the foundation of their reality. Because humanity hadn't actually perished outside the walls. The quote-unquote monsters they were fighting, they were their own people. Turned into mindless weapons by a vast, thriving, modernized world that absolutely despised them. The desperate fight for survival, the immense loss of life, it was all entirely manufactured by human hatred. They weren't the heroic last stand of humanity. They were its most hated outcasts.
Which brings us to what I consider one of the most haunting moments in the entire story, the ocean scene. For his entire life, the ocean was Eren's symbol of ultimate freedom. It was the very edge of the map. But as he finally stands there in the water, pointing toward the horizon, his face is completely devoid of joy. His lifelong dream just turns to ash in his mouth. In that moment, he realizes that across that water aren't vast, empty lands waiting to be explored. There are endless enemies who demand their utter extinction. To achieve his twisted version of true freedom, he concludes that he must destroy the rest of the world.
Section 3. The Moral Inversion.
This is where the narrative fragments, and we descend into the grim reality of a global war, where everything we thought we knew is turned entirely upside down.
Think about it. The false war we originally believed in was simple, righteous, and heroic. Humanity versus monsters. It was your classic tale of good against evil. But the true war was a deeply uncomfortable reality. Humanity versus humanity. As the narrative pushes forward, the lines between hero and oppressor blur completely. The fandom felt this deep, unsettling unease as the people of Paradis, who were once the innocent, caged victims, remember, launch a devastating surprise attack on Marley. They brutally mirror the very tragedy that started the story, slaughtering civilians and soldiers alike in a preemptive strike, a strike that, honestly, completely obliterates any remaining moral high ground.
Eren's descent here is incredibly cold and calculated. He methodically moves from being a passionate victim to the ruthless architect of destruction. First, infiltrating the Marleyan military, hiding in plain sight among the very people who destroyed his home. Then, he falsely aligns with and ultimately rejects his brother Zeke's twisted plan for peaceful euthanization. He radicalizes the Jaegerists faction, violently overthrowing his own military command, and finally, he betrays his former comrades in the ethereal realm of the Paths, seizing the true godlike power of the founding Titan. This is no longer a boy seeking freedom. It is a detached entity moving toward a horrifying absolute.
And the terrifying result of all this is the rumbling. Millions of colossal titans marching across the earth, moving as this unstoppable wall of boiling heat and crushing weight. Eren unleashes absolute indiscriminate devastation. He tramples the earth, crushing soldiers, civilians, cities, and entire ecosystems, all just to protect his small island. The boy who swore to eradicate the Titans transforms himself into the very monster that destroyed his childhood home, initiating a global genocide of an unprecedented, apocalyptic scale.
Section 4. The Inescapable Cycle. As the dust finally settles on the final battle, we're left to confront the creator's ultimate, uncompromising thesis on human nature.
So, was the sacrifice meaningless? This is the question that bitterly divided the entire fandom. Many viewers felt immense frustration, feeling like the hero's struggles, the countless deaths, and all that immense suffering amounted to absolutely nothing. But in this explainer, I'm going to argue that this deep sense of futility is exactly the point. The story is a harsh, uncompromising reflection on the reality of human violence. It actively rejects the comfort of a simple, happy ending in favor of a much more profound, painful truth.
The climax unfolds as this desperate cascade of tragedy. Commander Hanji sacrifices herself to the marching Titans, essentially burning alive simply to buy the remaining heroes a few precious minutes. The Alliance, pushed to their absolute limits, is forced to break through the hardened Titan defenses of their former comrade. And then, in a moment of sheer devastation, Mikasa, soaring through the air in tears, is forced to sever the head of the boy she loved. Through this ultimate, tragic choice, the Titan curse is finally lifted from the world. The long, bloody era of Titans is over. It seems for a fleeting moment like a definitive, hard-won resolution.
But then, the story delivers its final, crushing blow. Hundreds of years later, the bombs inevitably fall again. Despite the temporary peace bought by Eren's horrific actions, and despite the scouts bleeding to protect their world, human nature dictates that war always returns. The society they sacrificed everything for is ultimately destroyed by conventional warfare. Because the Titans were never the root cause of human conflict. Human hatred was. The cycle of fear and destruction simply evolved, proving that humanity's greatest enemy is, and always has been, itself.
The inescapable loop is completely closed. In the final moments of the narrative, a young boy, accompanied by a dog, wanders through a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and he discovers a twisted, massive tree growing right over Eren's burial site. A tree utterly identical to the one the original founder, Ymir, fell into thousands of years ago. The cycle of human violence, the desperate search for power born out of fear and trauma, it's all poised to begin all over again.
So, did the ending ruin or complete the story? Does the ultimate futility of their struggle destroy the value of their journey? Or is this nihilistic cycle actually a masterclass in realistic, uncompromising storytelling? I really urge you to reflect on that. True art doesn't always comfort us. Sometimes, it holds up a terrifying mirror to our own history, demanding that we stare into the darkest parts of ourselves.
If you appreciate this measured, deeply serious explainer on the mechanics of storytelling, consider subscribing to ReWritten for more alternative anime takes. We explore the shadows and the profound truths hidden beneath the surface of the media we love. Until next time, keep questioning the narrative.